everyone, Diana Rankin here with your weekly messages, along with Daisy, who's right here, and you'll probably see her. She'll go out running around pretty quick here. These are the messages and predictions for September the 23rd to the 29th, and we've got some things to talk about this week. I know last week I talked about, I told you that I wanted to give you information on intuition, that gut instinct, to help you develop that. And I do have a course on it that's coming up in the first weekend in November. So if you're interested, please go to my website and you can download the brochure. You can give me a call. Registration is still open, and it's a pretty intense weekend, but this will help you awaken and develop your intuition. It will also, or that gut instinct, whatever you wish to call it. I can't stress enough how important it is to develop our intuition. And last week I told you how to get in touch with a spirit guide or someone, a communicator, to help you out. And I can't give you certainly everything that we go through in this workshop or the processes, but I can give you some of the information that will help you develop that intuition. And I'm going to give you the next several weeks, including this week. I want to give you more information on that. However, first, I want to talk about what's going on in the U.S. And I want to also say it's so important that we hold the whole world in love and that divine light. And that's going to be increasingly important. But because I live in the U.S., of course, I'm more familiar, and what's going on here is affecting the world. So I want to talk about that. By the time this airs, we will know whether Judge Kavanaugh will be seated on the Supreme Court. It's Friday afternoon, the week before September 23rd, and I am enjoying the last of summer. Fall equinox was this week, and it's like one of those last days of the warmth of summer, and it's actually rather a little too warm. I think it's supposed to get close to 90 today, and that's a little warm for where I am. But let's look at what's happening in the U.S., especially with the Supreme Court thing going on. And again, we'll already know the answer I'm going to tell you whether I think he's going to be appointed and seated or not, and we'll already know the answer by the time this does, by this week, the week of the 23rd to the 29th. Now, I know we're all a little weary, by the way, and so if you can find a sanctuary like this, a park or your own backyard or a room in your home, it is so important that we take care of each other, and that we take care of ourselves. And over the next several weeks, that's going to be several months, actually, that's going to be increasingly important. Intuition will help us stay safe, and love will help us develop that intuition. So very, very important that you do that. So now, you've heard me say that the ancient ones predicted these times. And it's the time of the feminine energy rising. And as that feminine energy rises, the male energy is going to fight against it. That's what, excuse me, something bit my leg here, and it's kind of stinging and hurting, so I'm reaching down and just giving it a little rub here. You know, I found it interesting that the Trump campaign was all about Make America Great Again. Well, no, that's about let's return to rich white men running the nation. You know, there is an entitlement among rich white men especially, and this feminine rising it's butting up against it, but it's also questioning it, and it's saying, wait a minute, no, this is wrong. We saw the beginning of it in the 1970s, and you've also heard me say that many cultures, in the U.S., we see culture, or we see time as being linear, but many cultures see time as being circular. And so if we think of everything coming back on itself, whether in our lives or patterns in throughout all life, throughout history, we see those patterns coming back. But as they come back, we move through them faster and hopefully at a little higher level. That said, I want to look at the 1970s and 91 and the current situation, because there's the pattern. In the 1970s, women rose up and said, enough is enough. This was my age group. This was my generation. And we said, you've allowed us to be teachers. We're allowed to be sales clerks. We're allowed to be dental assistants. You know, our employment opportunities are very limited. And so we rose up. I didn't burn a bra, but that was the days of bra burning. It was the big feminist movement. Now, that said, we did open up employment opportunities. We opened up colleges and universities for young women coming behind us. And the strength of these women, who are now grandmothers and great-grandmothers, they raised young women to go out into the world, that you have choices that we didn't have open to us. So there's this movement here. And, you know, we can even go back into when women got the right to vote in this country. So there's always been that movement, and each time it takes on more or something different. So it's time, we need a time to catch our breath. And we're having, in there you can see Daisy behind us walking around here. So we took time to catch our breath between the 1970s and further back, but between the 70s and the late 80s. There was the movement, it was going, but we also took a little time to catch our breath. Now, that said, in 1991, Anita Hill came forward and said Clarence Thomas, who was eventually put on the Supreme Court, he was a sexual harasser. He had sexually harassed her. Other women came out. There was an FBI investigation. It went before a bunch of old white men in the Senate, and they said, well, you women don't count. And they were rude. They were horrible to her. But she's a strong woman. Now we're seeing this come back again. We stopped again to catch our breath. Clarence Thomas stayed on the court, went about his business, and now we're saying, not only as women, but the men, the good men, are saying, enough is enough. Sexual harassment. A lot of women, almost every woman I know, myself included, we've been victims of sexual harassment. Not necessarily with the men in our lives, however. And I want to stress that the men in my life are gentlemen. That includes my family members and any man I date, my good male buddies. They're gentlemen. I've never allowed in my life or had in my life anybody who perpetuated any sexual harassment. So I've been very, very blessed and fortunate in that way. Judge Kavanaugh is being accused of attempted rape. I believe Dr. Ford. Very simply, why would she bring this up? Why would she call for an FBI investigation? Why would she put herself through this? This is an educated, bright woman. And also I read energy. Now, I've not seen her, but I have seen Kavanaugh. His energy is very similar to a lot of other men who really, honestly don't get it. They don't recognize, and too many people who are supporting them are saying stupid things like boys will be boys. Oh, it happened a long time ago, you know, those teenage behavior. No, boys will not be boys. Most boys are not sexual predators. Most boys do not, in their teenage years, get drunk and attempt to rape a young girl. Most boys Do not act like this. And it is an insult, an insult to say that all boys are like that, because they're not. And the men I know are up in arms about it. How dare those people say that? Those people being the Senate, the Republican senators. Now, we can't lump all people together. But let's not all men treat women as sexual objects. And that includes young men, teenagers. Most young men are taught, and they grow up to know what lines to cross. Excuse me. Do they find women sexually attractive? Well, most men do. Or they may be gay and find other men sexually attractive. But we know what lines to cross. Judge Kavanaugh has been accused of crossing that line. Is this someone we want on the Supreme Court? For a lifetime appointment? We need it to be investigated. Will he be seated? Well, by the time this airs, we'll know, but I'm going to make a prediction about it anyway. Back in 2015, I kept telling all my friends, you know, somebody, I think Hillary Clinton is the most qualified, but she won't get elected. Somebody's going to come out of left field. I should have said out of right field. But somebody's going to come along that we least expect to be elected, and that's going to be our next president. I feel that same urge now, that although everything says he will be seated, and it looks like he will be seated, it feels like something unexpected will happen at the last minute, and that he will not be seated. Something will derail the confirmation. I don't know what. I do want to also say this, that our current president is very useful to the far right. Very useful to people like McConnell and others who are in the Congress or outside of the Congress. He's very useful. And he will stay in office as long as he is useful and the Supreme Court nomination or the Supreme Court is probably one of the biggest reasons that this segment of society wanted him in there. He's keeping us all busy over here while they're over here pushing through agendas that help the very wealthy. Whether Kavanaugh is confirmed or not, whether Trump stays in office or not, we have our work cut out for us if we want to create a world of love, of dignity, of compassion for all people. The rich white man's entitlement in the U.S. is about to tumble. Now, that's tumble with a T, not C, crumble. It's not going to crumble, but it's going to take a little tumble. And that said, and it's not immediate, it's not this week, but we're kind of seeing people are becoming aware. And as people become aware of what's going on, you can see the edges being chipped away at. That said, we're going to get a message from Philip. And by the way, welcome all of you to this channel. We're so glad you come every week, and we're so glad you've told your friends about us, and I love your comments. I do get around to reading them quicker than I get around to answering them. So welcome if you're new. Thank you if you come back every week. And this is my spirit guide, Philip. This is one of my books. 4 of my 6 books, 2 are out of print, but 4 of them are available, including the latest, Joy. And you can get them on Amazon.com. You can get them through my website, but Amazon's probably the easiest. So this is an oracle book. Each page has a different wisdom on it, and we just flip through to get our wisdom. Now think left page or right page. I always read both, but the one of either left or right, and I tell you which, is our message. So let's just see what our message. Oh, we're stopping right there. And I'm hearing right, but again, I will read the left. But here's our message for this week. Today was given birth in the experiences of yesterday. Is it not then important to carefully watch over the experiences that make up this day? Let me read that again, shall I? Today was given birth in the experiences of yesterday. Is it not then important to carefully watch over the experiences that make up this day? And the left side, just to give you another message, is as your need decreases, your love increases. As your need decreases, your love increases. Okay, my friends, let me wrap up here and tell you this week, stay safe. Gun violence is going to continue to increase. The energy is still very erratic, so our weather patterns are going to continue to be unpredictable even. And, you know, it's like if the weather is predicting that you're going to get a fire, evacuate. If the weather's going, because what's going to happen is that they may say the fire's going this way and then it jumps over to this way. The same with hurricanes, floodwaters. There's some lava that's going to be pouring, and earthquakes. I mean, the earth is shaking off all of this anger and lack of love that we have, that we're showing in our world today. The U.S. is more, I've never known the U.S. to be quite so divided. Again, back in the late 60s and early 70s, it was pretty serious. So we got through that. We'll get through this, but we need every one of you to live with as much love in your life as you can. Is that easy? I think it's really tough. And one of the things that helps me the most is when I get angry at someone else, I step back and I say, bless you and bless me. And sometimes I have to say that through gritted teeth. All right, my friends, Daisy and I love you. She got out in the burrs, and so we have to go brush her. The kitties, the front porch kitties, and little mommy Joey, everyone's doing fine, as our indoor kids and the indoor kids. Every morning, little Joey, the mommy, comes to the screen door when I open it, and she knows that she's going to get breakfast. And so now the little kitties, their little faces are popping up. So if you can imagine, you know, mommy, who's pretty small herself, and she's looking in, and then down here are three, here's a little face, here's a little face, and over here's a little face. They're all four looking in and saying, it's breakfast time, and my indoor cats are not the nicest to them, shall we say. Anyway, Daisy's right here, and we love you. Thank you for spreading love to the world. Please stay safe. It's going to be another volatile week. Until we meet again, I love you. Thank you for accepting my love. Thank you for loving us. Bye for now.